Well, Zach, it is not the week to check your stock portfolio, my man.
Gabe, I saw the best post on LinkedIn, and we talk about like LinkedIn cringe every now and then. If people do post some odd things, I still think one of my favorites was the guy talking about, my wife just left me. Here's what it taught me about B2B sales. But I just hate stuff like that. But yeah, I saw one this week, and it said, "I'm happy to announce that I'm no longer checking my portfolio."
You said that to me. I laughed so hard. It was so great because, like you said, LinkedIn can be very cringy, as we have talked about before. And I have professed my love for the LinkedIn Lunatics Reddit thread, which just makes me laugh all the time. But the post you sent me was so perfect because it was that like I'm announcing a new job or I'm announcing a promotion post that all of us have seen 900,000 times. And it's always the celebrations or the airplane flying up into the top right of the screen, and then I'm happy to announce that I'm no longer checking my stock portfolio. Just made me laugh so hard.
The thing I think that's funny about this, Gabe, is I've gone from looking at memes on Reddit to Twitter to Instagram to an extent to LinkedIn now. Like it's coming full circle here as you do your adult life.
I was going to say, welcome to being an adult, my man. You've made it full circle on these social media platforms. So now being a full on adult.
Oh gosh, well, believe it or not, I forgot about this until yesterday, but I think TikTok's deadline is tomorrow. So next week, Gabe, we might have to talk about what happens with TikTok and short form video for marketers as well. But today, I really want to talk about AI a little bit, and
Mhm.
specifically, I got an email this week from Google saying that I've been accepted into the Google AI mode beta. Which, if you're not familiar, Gabe, what this is it's a whole new tab on Google where you can see AI results as opposed to what you typically see today is that little AI summary followed by a list of links. So I'm in the beta and I've been playing around with it for a few days. And I have to say, I'm pretty impressed.
I Yes, obviously we've talked about this a little bit, and I've been very impressed with what you've shared with me so far as well. Do you feel like so privileged being part of the Google AI beta? I feel like
It's
I feel
like
like you've
it's
made
like
it in
that
life.
Family Guy meme when like they're wearing like suits and tuxes and why do you think you're better than me? But no,
Yeah.
I'm happy to be in, and I like I said I'm impressed so far. So hopefully they can get this to general availability here soon. But
Mhm.
for those listening, what we're talking about here is this new Google AI mode. It's bringing all of Google's information directly into search, bringing real time sources from multiple data sources all together in an easy to understand response. There's no links you can click. It's just a very descriptive response to your query. And next to the response, like you can click the little link icon to see where Google got that source, which is great. I think that's something we see in most AI tools today, just to
Mhm.
validate where that data is coming from. But it's been great. You can ask questions, you can search for topics, and instead of having to click into a link and go to a website and go back, click the next link and go to a website, you're getting this nice detailed summary. And the cool thing too is you can ask follow-up questions. So I think it's been a great tool in the past few days that I've been using it.
Yeah, and I know we're going to get into some of the specific details here, Zach, around some normal search queries that you ran versus AI search queries. But could you spend just maybe a couple of minutes talking about this kind of evolution of traditional Google search to AI search results, which we've started to see, I think, much more frequently when you do search for a topic in Google, and then where this new Google AI search has really taken this to a whole nother level. I think that would be beneficial to just kind of ground it in that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So, let's go back even 10 years, back in my prime. I feel like I say that every podcast no, as a joke. I think with Remy a couple weeks ago, it was like talking about like the 1900s, and I was like back in my prime. But no, let's talk about the Google search we're familiar with. And I would say we could even talk about, Bing, Yahoo like this, which I think Yahoo is powered by Bing to some extent. We need to follow up on that. But what you have traditionally is you type in a question and you get a long list of links, multiple pages of links. And there's always that joke: if it's not on the first page of Google, it doesn't exist, right? So what the user experience there is, me as the consumer, maybe I'm typing in a question, I'm trying to find, something online, I'm shopping, whatever that may be, and I'm presented with a long list of links, and you can go in each one, click, view their website, go back again, click the website, see what the content they have. Google does have like a little summary of the website too, so you can like 2 sentences of what link you're clicking. And that's the traditional search. Now, the next step thing that Google did here was they brought in a little Gemini summary at the top. And this is, again, a short paragraph at the very top of the page. But let's say, I'm going to Zion National Park here in a couple days, or tomorrow, tonight, I should say. But let's say I'm Googling, fun things to do in Zion. Instead of getting that list, I might get a little AI summary that says, hey, check out these 5 things, or it's going to give you just a little bit of information. And then again, you can just keep scrolling and click into those links. Now with AI mode, you can scrap all of that, even the AI summary, because now you're presented with a page. It's actually like a very clean UI UX. It's just a plain, white page, and you get your question at the top, and then it does a long page of describing and answering your question with these. I mentioned the different data sources, that real-time information. Gabe, there's been a lot of news headlines this week as well. And one of the things I've been fascinated with is, since it has access to all of Google's data and Google's, quality search engine, it's summarizing all of this live web content, providing that real-time information while also bringing in AI. And the cool thing here is, again, you don't have to click on links. Like, you just get exactly, well, hopefully exactly what you're looking for. And of course, I personally haven't run into any issues where I'm like, okay, well, this isn't quite right, or I need to click on this link bar as well.
Glue on pizza like it did when they first rolled this stuff out.
I haven't run into that, and that's not to say I won't. But one of the cool things too is, for all of the advice in life, I might say, on Google, what's new with the latest iOS update? Reddit. And my point there is, I want to get Reddit results. Well, if you do this with the new AI mode results, it's actually going to pull in Reddit posts and comments and build that AI generative response. So instead of reading comment by comment, I'm getting this, again, AI summary of content from the web.
Yep. Yeah. And what has been really impressive to me as you've showed me this is the contextual understanding that it has as you're asking follow-up questions too. Mm-hmm. So it's not just that initial quote unquote search query. It's, what can I do in Zion? What are some great things to do in Zion? And then you may, follow up with another question of, I'm going in the month of April, are there things that I should be worried about? And it remembers all of those previous questions that you've asked as well, and the previous context that it gave you.
Exactly. So that's a little vacation planning, but I also thought car shopping in this new AI mode. One of the things I did was, and this was a couple months ago before AI mode, but I would go in and I'd say, what's the best SUV? And of course you'd get all these companies trying to pay to get their link on the top, number one, the ads. You get, websites where you could go in and see user feedback as well. But if you do that same search in Google AI mode, it might tell you what, based on its research, what the best SUV is based on different criteria. And then you can ask that follow-up question. So what is the best SUV? Oh, is it the Toyota RAV? Well, does the Toyota RAV have all-wheel drive? Is there a hybrid model? How is the hybrid model different from, the competitor hybrid model? Like, you can do all these follow-up questions, and it's going to, I feel like it's just a good research tool. But if we want to think about the mindset of a consumer, it's a good shopping tool, and it does integrate in with Google's shopping tools and their data. So I think that's where I want to spend the most time next is, okay, as a consumer shopping for something online, what is AI mode going to return as a result?
Yeah, I love this topic, and I definitely want to dig into this as well, especially in comparison to that traditional search versus the new AI mode search. Just to top up your comment there on the car shopping before we move on, though, completely agree with you. That's a perfect example. When I was shopping for an electric vehicle last year, I was doing all of this research, and normally I'd end up on a blue link somewhere where I would click into a Car and Driver or something like that, where people were talking, where writers were going through and ranking electric vehicles, talking about the pros and cons. I know we're going to talk about this in a moment here, but those pros and cons, if I didn't have to actually click through and read through all of the details, that would have been a huge time saver for me. I spent a lot of time researching. I don't think I spend as much time researching things as you do. You're definitely more of a researcher than I am.
I like to know things, Gabe.
Yes, I know you do. But when I'm a little more decisive, I think, with my consumer purchases than you are. But I still like to do some level of research, and if I can cut down the amount of research that I'm doing, that's a huge win for me. And that's why we're going to start to see. That's why you'll see people moving to Google AI mode, is because it's a time saver. If I don't have to go through and click through each one of these crummy blue links to try and find the information that I want, it's just summarized for me in an AI summary. That's a huge win from a consumer perspective.
Not only consumer, Gabe, I just think in the past week I've been using this, just the overall customer experience, the experience of using Google, it's totally different. It's totally changed.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like it. It's not as overwhelming, I feel like.
Yeah. It's funny you said that about the UI too. You were talking about how clean it is. That's the classic Google thing, right? It's, you go to Google and it's that literally just the search bar and there's so little information. And at first people were very confused because they were like, where's the rest of this website? But it's nice that they carried that over to AI.
Well, I mean, it's just so easy to use. Like when I've been using this, I think, could my grandparents use this? Absolutely. They would probably save them from clicking on the wrong links too. But it's just a great experience. So let's talk about that more. How will consumers use this?
Yeah.
So I did a couple questions here for this podcast, and I just copied and pasted the question into Google AI mode and Google search. So I had two windows side by side to compare the results. So the first question, of course, I have to bring in a broadband example. I said, what's the best internet in my town? That's all I said. I didn't give it any additional information. I just said, what's the best internet in my town? Now the normal search provided, of course, a list of websites, which means me as the consumer, I had to pick a website, read an article or read about, and kind of do the comparison in my head of what exactly am I buying. Now, for your average consumer, that can be overwhelming. Gabe, being in the industry, there's nothing I love more than a broadband website in most cases. But again, you have a list of links that you have to pick from. Now, one of the funny things was the AI summary at the top mentioned that a long-standing legacy cable provider in my town was the best BSP. And we'll talk about that more in a minute, but just keep in mind that. So now in the AI mode, I said the same question, what is the best internet in my town? And it listed the best providers with pretty high level, introductory information here, but it also included information like if fiber is available at your location, provider ABC is the best option. If fiber is not available, provider XYZ is the best option. And then it had those generative, we always get stuck on that word.
You're going to get it one of these days, man.
One of these days, yeah. But the summaries of the topic from multiple sources. Now, the thing I thought that was pretty funny here was at the very bottom. So it's talking all about these fiber providers and these other providers. At the very bottom, it had a category that said other notable providers. And it included things like satellite, fixed wireless, and so on. So it recognizes that there's going to be a difference in experience with technology. But number one, it's not focusing on technology. It's not telling me, hey, my 5G ultra wideband technology is good here, fiber's good here. It's not doing any of that. But it is separating that provider that's going to have a less than ideal experience potentially into its own category, with fiber being up above. So I thought that was a pretty interesting take too.
Yeah, agreed. And when you showed me that, I immediately thought, my goodness, I really want to stay out of the other notable providers section. Because
I don't want to be there.
No, you talked about being on the second page of Google and that being effectively being, I don't even exist. I feel like that's pretty much the other notable providers section of AI mode search results. If you're ending up there, you might as well not exist. You're basically on the second page of Google search results.
I said it's funny, but I truly think it is funny because you don't want to be there.
No.
It reminds me of a little bit of consumer behaviors. We talk about what images are you putting on your website, or if you click and buy into this service that has this specific image, are you going to relate to that persona? Or Gabe, I sent you the stock image of the old guy hunting and pecking on his keyboard. People don't want to buy that because they don't see themselves with that image. But also now, do you want a less than ideal provider? No. So let's stay out of that category. But the second question I asked here was, more focused on analyzing reviews. So like, okay, well, now that I know what the providers are in my area, what are people saying about, BSP in my town? And that was the question I used. I said, what are people saying about, insert BSP name here in my town? And the normal Google search again was just a page of links. There was, links to Facebook, links to Reddit. CNET was on there. A lot of those pay to play websites where you can, spend a little bit of extra money and they get your name ranked up higher in the list.
Yeah.
But again, when you're using a tool like Google in this case, you're leaving it up to the consumer to click the right link and not be bamboozled by a pay to play website where, a satellite provider is ranked at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with AI mode, again, it was more descriptive here, but one of the things it called out was, this is the exact quote, was, quote, customers frequently praise this BSP, noting significant improvements over other cable providers like competing BSP, end quote. And so I thought it was very interesting to see that it's specifically calling out, from the Google reviews, from the Facebook reviews, from these other data sources, that this fiber BSP is delivering an exceptional experience. Not only that, but the same response. So I didn't have to prompt it again. It included it in the response, said, here are the pros, here are the cons. And it talked about installation even. It said people with, my BSP reported technicians are helpful, courteous, quick, and unobtrusive with their installation. And I thought, what a great opportunity to, Gabe, we've talked about in the past of when people leave reviews calling out those technicians or what their experience is like on that initial touch point with your business. Great. AI is now summarizing that. So
Yeah.
if you have, and if you strive to deliver a less than exceptional customer experience, well, great news. AI knows that because of the reviews and the sentiment around your BSP, and it's now sharing it with others. So we're not in a position now where, oh, I'm going to go to Google, type in my BSP, click reviews and see what other people are saying. No, with AI mode, AI is going to say exactly what people are saying and put that in front of your customer. The other pro and con here was, it was more of a con here. It said customers express frustration with scheduling and missed appointments. And I thought, again, another great opportunity to optimize your customer experience, because if people start complaining about that, if they've complained in the past, great news. AI mode is going to list the pros and cons without the user prompting them. So just an awesome opportunity here to take it a step further, take it the next step, right? I think what do we say, Gabe? Don't just strive for mediocrity, or don't just strive and for the basic customer experience. And this all ties into, okay, well, now AI is going to be telling people about my business. What do I want AI to tell people about my business? And you can influence that.
I think there's a couple of things that come up as you were talking there, Zach. I think about back to our John Pico episode where we talked about, yes, not being, if you're striving for mediocrity, or if you're just trying to satisfy
There it was.
You're striving for mediocrity. And one of the things that I continue to think about from that episode that John was on was the peaks and the valleys, and trying to create as many peaks as you can and trying to avoid as many valleys as you can. Going to that con example, especially at the beginning of a relationship, having a valley where I have a scheduled appointment for a technician to come to my home and they either don't show or reschedule, that's a really bad valley. And the good part is that by researching through these reviews, you can identify those potential problems. And one of the things that John talked a lot about in that episode as well is, where do you make your investments from a customer experience perspective? And it's oftentimes hard to know, like, where can I get the most bang for my buck? This is a great way, Zach, to identify those opportunities to say, okay, I can see that this is a real problem. I'm going to put some dollars, I'm going to put some process in place to make sure that I'm avoiding this valley going forward. Because not only is it a valley and my customers are having a bad experience, but then they're writing about it online and potentially damaging my brand from a prospect perspective. The other piece that comes to mind, and it's just, this is sort of the advancements in AI over the last couple of years. Zach, I remember when we first started playing with this stuff, we were taking manually out of Google copies of reviews, copying and pasting them into a Copilot or an AI tool, and then asking questions of the AI. what are the positive things that people are saying? What are the negative things that people are saying? Now that's happening automatically for you. So it's been a massive advancement there to make that much easier for BSPs so that they're not having to go through and do all of that heavy lifting on their own.
As you were talking, Gabe, I was paying attention. Don't worry. I added one more question here. So I went back into AI mode and I said, what pain points are people having with
great
my
question.
BSP?
Yeah.
And it broke it down by category. Reliability and outages, just talking about little inconsistency in outages, talking about how they can sometimes last longer, or you may need to restart your equipment, things like that. Customer service, there's that missed experiences again. But then down below, it says, and I'm just gonna read this. It says, it's important to note that many users also have positive experiences with my BSP. And it talks about the fast and reliable connection, the excellent value, positive installation experiences with technicians being helpful and respectful. And then it says at the bottom, so remember, I asked it to say, what are the pain points? I'm asking it to give me the negatives, and it did say, it's important to remember. At the very bottom, it says overall, and it says my BSP, and it talks about, I don't want to read too much into this, but it's talking about how there's more positive responses and reviews than negative. So that's just one more question I had to quickly, insert in here. But
I like that.
The way I asked that question too, give me the pain points, that might not be something that people will generally search to find, your website or to find your business. And Gabe, I think that goes back to kind of a conversation we've had previously. Is I feel like when I use AI, I'm more descriptive or, more long form with my questions or my inputs. Whereas with Google, like I might just say like restaurant near me. Whereas with AI, I might say like, I'm looking for a restaurant that,
realistically,
kind of
Chipotle near me, crumble near me. Those are the things that Zach is Googling.
I don't need to go to AI to find the crumble near me. But I do find myself giving AI more context. So I think the big tip here for people is I just ask AI, give me the pain points. Do this for your own business. Ask AI, ask other AI platforms of your choice. And making sure you do your due diligence, of course, on the platforms, but asking it about your business. What are the good, the pros? What are the cons? What are people saying? If I want internet in my town, who's the provider? See what those responses are, because if the results are not what you would want them to be, I think we need to fix something.
100%. And I'm so glad you said that. So yes, we've been talking all about this technology piece. Well, now, so what? Now what? So we've got this new technology. Awesome. How can we leverage it? You're spot on. Do exactly that. If you're a broadband service provider, go do exactly what Zach did. Come up with a sample of 5 to 10 questions that you as the consumer or the consumers in your area would be searching for to find you. And then do those in both AI mode and traditional search, and see what those differences are. See what reviews are being pulled out of the Google reviews. See how that's being summarized. Because again, if you're trying to improve the customer experience, which I really hope everybody is out there trying to do that, but it's difficult to sometimes know where to start. This is a great way to start to identify where you could start and where you can drive the most potential benefit based on what people are saying overall.
Exactly. So let's talk about the so what. Why does any of this matter? Well, I think we've touched on a few points already here, but the big thing here is AI is going to provide direct answers to questions in this AI mode results. And ultimately, what's going to happen here is I think it's going to reduce the traffic going to your website, those click-throughs to your website. Of course, you still need to buy services, but if people are just looking for basic questions or looking for information, AI mode is great at providing that. So I think we're going to see a little bit of an impact here with things like SEO, website conversions, things like that, but also increased competition for that top spot on that AI summary. And to do this, to get that top spot, I think you've got to have high value content on your website, but not only your website, but I mentioned at the top of the podcast, Google's looking at other data sources as well. I think there's a huge opportunity here to not only create high value content, but think about where you're publishing this, where people can find information about your business, whether it's across different social media apps, video content, YouTube, audio content, thought leadership. Gabe, this podcast is thought leadership.
Yeah.
I should ask
Well,
AI
and
mode what it thinks about buffering,
I'm
but
scared to ask that question.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and you're spot on. And we're seeing more BSPs invest in this type of content. Whether we see people doing podcasts, we see people creating content for YouTube, and that's awesome because now the AI is going to search through all of those things, including the things that you're talking about on a regular basis on a podcast or in a YouTube video or whatever, wherever it may be. So, and like Zach, we talked about this before too, but something like podcast is such a great way to repurpose content as well. Like when so we record a podcast, not to give people like too much insight into the fun
we
things that we
record a
do.
podcast. Yeah, no, I would hope so, Gabe. Here we are.
So we record the podcast, we chop that podcast up into video clips. Those video clips get uploaded to YouTube in both shorts form as well as the full video. I take that content and you take that content and we generally post it to LinkedIn as well. We're trying to repurpose this content in multiple ways. So it's a great opportunity, I think, to your point, to start talking about the things that your customers care about. Hopefully we do that, Zach. I think we do that. I think we do a pretty decent job of that.
I feel like we talk a lot about what we care about.
we weave a lot of that into, but I feel like we do a pretty decent job of talking about the
absolutely
things our customers care about.
A lot of best practices we share here for conversations we have out in the field. Or Gabe, you always mention how much time we spend on broadband websites and websites in general. Again, that's where a lot of this content comes from.
100%. It's when I started doing LinkedIn videos way back in the day, back in my prime, Zach.
I was going to say,
the reason I did that was because I was having very similar conversations with customers on a regular basis. And I decided that I read this book, They Ask You Answer, which really made me think about this. I also watched what our friend Seth Thompson is doing with his videos, and he does a really good job of this as well. But trying to think about, okay, what questions am I getting asked frequently by my customers? What content can I create to help address some of those questions? That to me is the exact place you should be starting for content creation. And maybe the question now, Zach, to weave it back into this conversation is, what questions are my customers asking in either search or AI mode search? And how can I create content that answers those questions? And if you do that, you're going to be much more likely to be seen in a positive light by the AI mode search that Zach was talking through earlier.
Are you saying that these LinkedIn posts are not high value content, Gabe? Is that what I'm hearing here?
No, I'm saying the opposite. This is incredibly high value content. It is answering the questions that your customers are asking. And again, we're all operating businesses. We're all talking to customers on a regular basis. And again, there are common questions that I get asked a lot, and I have common answers to those questions because that's just the reality of the situation. There's usually a good answer for most of these questions. So if there is a good answer, why are we not sharing that broadly in a much more scalable way versus I had a conversation with you, then I had another individual conversation with another person, and so on and so forth, right? That's not very scalable.
What it comes down to, Gabe, here is having that strong brand presence. I think that is going to be critical in, I feel like I have to say it, but the age of AI, that's going to be very important because, like I mentioned, we don't get to tell AI, what information to put at the top of its summaries here. But when that model is out looking at its data sources for information about what that query was, if you have that high value content, if you have that optimized website, maybe some video and some other content sprinkled around as well, the social media post, well, guess what? AI knows, I feel bad saying AI knows everything, but that high value content is going to drive conversions when people start using this AI summary.
Yep, agreed. Hey, Zach, can you tell people how to go get into the privileged group that you are in with AI mode search? Like, what's the
It's actually funny, Gabe, because I don't remember signing up for this. But I think having a Google account, like I said, I got an email here, but when I do a new Google search, I just go to Google, type in my search, and then once you get into the search, there's the web, images, maps. I love that maps tab too. But there's different tabs. There's one called AI mode. So if you see that AI mode, like I said, I think you might have to have a Google account. But keep that in mind. And if you're curious, if you don't have access to it, just Google say Google twice. Look up, search for Google AI mode. So Google AI mode is the name of the product, and it's based off Gemini. They've made some updates there. Very excited to see where this goes. Gabe,
Same.
Google Gemini is not the only search, AI engine, but in my testing, like I said, I'm very impressed so far. Do your due diligence. Be cautious of what data you put in, and have that acceptable use policy, ready. But like I said, see what people would find about your business through this new tool.
Well, to your point, again, not recommending tools, but the reality is that as this rolls out more broadly, your customers are going to be using this.
It's a beta today, but not tomorrow.
Yeah. This stuff is moving so rapidly that it will not be in beta.
Well, the thing too, Gabe, like I said, there's other AI search tools out there, but how ubiquitous is Google? Like, you Google something, you don't say, "Oh, I'm gonna go, Open AI, Chat GPT search something." Yeah, I'm not gonna go, Bing something. Some people do use Bing. I won't, hate on them too much today, but Google's so ubiquitous. So the amount of traffic going to their website to begin with, these AI summaries, this AI mode, it's there. I can't imagine it's going anywhere, but I think we need to embrace that now. And whether it's for Google AI mode or the next AI tool, having that high value content, having your website optimized, just a huge bonus for you to begin with.
Agreed. Yeah, it's never going to be a bad thing for sure.
Well, Gabe, it is Friday. It is the end of the podcast. I hope everyone had a great time joining us today. Thank you again for tuning into Buffering. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast app and to share it with your friends and colleagues at the work.